school around me.
Now, if you're a parent or carer, you know what it's like, you know, and you're taking the kids, you're taking the child to the hairdressers. It's not always the easiest of tasks, is it? But it can actually also be a really difficult task when it seems like a sensory overload. Well, my next guest has tried to make a routine appointment a little less daunting. I'm joined by Chris Dunnage, who goes by the SEN Barber, and amongst his clientele are also children with special educational needs. He's worked with SEN children for over 10 years, but he's also going to be celebrating 1 year as a barber in April and joins me now. Chris, it's a pleasure to have you on Radio London. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Shay, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So most people, you know, who have children will just think, yeah, it's all right, we'll just quickly nip down to the barber's. But it can never be an easy one, can it? When you've got clippers, you've got, you know, scissors and all of those kind of things around children. But then you add into that, as I mentioned, the fact if you have a child who has special educational needs, it's important, isn't it, to ensure that the child feels comfortable just by getting their hair cut.
Absolutely, Shay. I mean, that's the thing. Most of my phone calls are from parents who have taken their child to a barber shop, and the barber said, yeah, no problem, you know, we can sort this young man out. And they've often taken a clipper guard and they've shaved straight down the middle, kind of did a bit of a runway. Right. Obviously, it's overly stimulating for the child. You know, there's all the background noise, there's radios on, there's TVs, there's other users, you know, and the child's then had an absolute meltdown. Right. And as a result, the hairstyle has not been able to be finished. And I've had parents tell me they've been asked to leave barbershops. You know, the child is making too much of a show, and you know that they absolutely phone me in just bits and say, you know, can you help me out?
To me, most people, you know, Chris, if you don't have a child, you won't get it, will you? Because you might be tuning into Radio London thinking, no, but you're just going to get your hair cut. But it can be really, really distressing, can't it, and upsetting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that we all take for granted, which is why I wanted to set up the SEN Barber. You know, it should be a fun experience to go get your hair cut or have a treatment in a salon. And it's just something that we all just take as an everyday thing. We don't really give a thought about a demographic in society who do not enjoy that experience whatsoever. You know, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, even for like older adults, you know, a big part for me is, you know, helping like young men to feel really good about themselves by having a haircut that's completely on trend. You know, they can have the haircut that everyone else has. Yeah. It just takes a lot longer to get there. That's all.
And so talk to me about how you make your environment comfortable then. Like, what are you doing to ensure it, you know, as you've just said, that it's a calm environment? And actually, whether it's a boy or a girl, they're coming in and they're enjoying just getting something that should be fun, really, getting a new hairstyle or getting their hair cut.
Absolutely, yeah. So a big part of the process is just building up that initial rapport. You know, and that will happen with like a pre-visit. So there's a chance to introduce the equipment. There's a chance to see what their triggers are. You know, can you wash the child's hair? Can the parent comb their hair? You know, do they balk at the idea of the clippers? Is it just going to be a scissor cut? So there's a lot that goes into the process of making it comfortable initially before even the haircut appointment takes place. Right. My home studio is for adults predominantly because, you know, it's quite a confined sort of space. Sure. But it's completely adaptable. You know, I sell it as a, you know, unashamedly SEN space because I've got clients who want to watch YouTube on the videos on their phones and listen to classical music. You know, and that's hard to you know, to establish in a traditional barbershop where you've got 15, 20 people in the shop. So it's a bespoke one-on-one service. You know, they can have the settings they want. They can have the lights dimmed if they want. You know, there's a nice cup of tea or a hot cup of hot chocolate. Lovely. And they can just disappear into their own little world while I go about cutting their hair. So
now you've, as I mentioned actually, Chris, you've worked with SEN children for over 10 years, haven't you? Over a decade. Yeah, but you're going to be celebrating a year anniversary as a barber in April. So why did you decide to specialise and go into this route of being the SEN Barber?
So basically, it was just out of necessity, really. Yeah. So, you know, working with these young people, I've worked all across the age range, from primary to adults. And, you know, when I was a teacher, I witnessed kids being mercilessly bullied about their haircuts because their parents had obviously cut their hair.
Right.
I can almost spot someone from like 200 yards now, you know, because
really,
it's the same. Because it's the same haircut. It's like a number 2 clipper guard all over,
right,
or shorter, because that's something that the parents can manage. So, you know, seeing these kids get mercilessly bullied, you know, at school, wearing their hats, always having their hoods up, and now working with adults with SEN, you know, who are going into a workplace and want to make a really good first impression. Yeah. It's quite difficult to do that if you've got a haircut that your mum's cut for you or your dad's cut for you.
Yeah, you're just not going to feel confident, are you?
It's not. No. Yeah. And I drive around Enfield now, and like, I can see my guys, and they just, you know, just walk with a different confidence. I work with different groups, and they say, you know, little Jimmy's found a new sense of confidence, and he walks on air now. He's got his head up. It's just you're absolutely right. You know, your appearance can really change the way that you feel, and for you with your service, you know, being for children with autism, with additional educational needs. I know, as you just mentioned, you know, you also have your barber cave, your home studio, which is for adults with autism as well. Yeah. I mean, it's not something most people think about, but actually, it's so vitally important. We remember how many of us were missing our barber service, we're missing our hairdressers during the lockdowns, weren't we? Yeah. We were itching to get out there, weren't we, to get our hair done? Yeah, it seems like haircuts were the most important thing in the world just a couple of years ago. You know, everyone seems to be moaning. But let's goes back to what I said earlier. You know, it's just something we all take for granted, Shay. You know, we think nothing about it. And, you know, and it's just nice now. You know, there's a young lady working in the Southwest called Kylie with Trotch Trim. She's doing a mobile service as well for little ones. Right. You're kind of getting specialist barbershops started to open up now and sprout up around London. Yeah. Which is great because, like I said, you know, like this demographic needs somewhere to go where they can feel safe and confident, and a lot of it comes down to routine. It has to be like the same barber. Got you. You know, I have clients, and you know, I've got to wear the same clothes, you know, the same hoodie. Because that's it's the familiarity. Yeah, so so much to take into account. It's really difficult to recreate that in a barbershop. So, you know, we need more specialist barbers out there, to be honest. And
let me ask you just finally, Chris, what do you say to a parent who, you know, I've seen it where they'll get I remember when I was younger, my mum would do this to my brother. She'd get a bowl, she'd put it over his head, and she'd just trim around and say, right, there you go. You know, like some really dodgy stuff, until my dad was like, no, he's going to the barber's. Thank goodness for dad is all I can say. But, you know, what do you say to parents who've never thought about it, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm that parent who does, you know, just does a quick whiz round, and I thought that was fine, but actually maybe that child hasn't had the confidence to say, you know, I get bullied because of my hair.
100%, and you know they get it at school, they get a hard time, you know. But I think for a lot of young people, say it's like walking into a barbershop and asking for exactly what you want can be quite difficult. And you know, I've got clients who come to me, they do not want to talk during the session. They do not want to make small talk. Some guys don't want a mirror on the wall. They don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. So, you know, they once you establish that over time with them to build a relationship, you can kind of pick up on this and what their triggers are. Right. You know, if you're a parent and you think, oh, we'll just send him to the local, or I'll do it myself, like you just mentioned, you've got to think about their own self-confidence. A lot of parents don't want to let their children go as well, and that's been a big thing I've run into. Yeah. You know, you have to just be willing to, I know they've got additional needs, but you've got to give them the chance to grow into the person they want to be. And you know, there is a way to get them with trendy haircuts. They can look their absolute best, whether it's in a social setting or a professional setting. And actually, most parents will say you just want your child to enjoy the normal basic things, right? And what's more normal than having a haircut? That's it. I mean, you know, going to a supermarket can be difficult for a person with SEN because the lights are too bright. Exactly. There's too many people, the rattling of the trolleys. Yeah. You know, these are all things we just take. We think nothing of it to pop into our local supermarket or our local barbers. It's just kind of realising that the setup has to be very regular, very specific to each individual need, and it can happen. And, you know, I've got parents who, like I said, they've had to drive their children to Southend because they've spotted a barbershop, and they said, that's the one place I'll go and get my hair cut.
Wow. Well, here you are giving that service in London. Let me give you the details. senbarber.co.uk, SEN for November, SEN barber.co.uk. Chris, you're doing a fantastic job, and a happy anniversary for April. Lovely having you on the show. Thanks for joining me today, Chris.
Thanks very much, Shane.
Take care.